Good morning, guys. So, this morning I want to talk about being consciously aware and being intentional on addressing um, toxic behavior within ourselves. We all have things in our character that we need to work on, and the first thing that I want to talk about is that it has to be intentional. It can't be something that we lightly think about, that on occasion we wonder if we can change it, if it's possible to change. It literally has to be intentional. You literally have to make the decision to figure out steps that you need to take to change your behavior. So it can be something that you take very lightly. The reason why you have to be intentional about it is because learned behavior doesn't just disappear in a thin air. Especially the older we get, the harder it is for us to change. That's why infants and toddlers are easy to learn three languages, because they're at a young age and they could absorb all that information. So the younger you are, the more teachable you are. The older you get in age, the harder it is to change because you're stuck in your habit. This learned behavior has been happening repetitively, decades after decades and decades after decades. It's even worse if you are surrounded constantly in environments that support that type of behavior. You begin to think that it's normal, and you have complacency in a sense of, why change, because it's not really affecting my life. And the reason why you feel like it's not affecting your life is because you're conducive to the environment that you're in. So being intentional is important because that learned behavior doesn't just go away. It takes time. It takes time to change that behavior. It has to be addressed every single day. Literally, you wake up every day, you have to address it. I did a devotion last year on the rubberband theory. So for those of you who know, I had therapy since 2012, but I had to change my therapist because I was having therapy, and my therapy was beginning to look like I was just coping with my issues. I wasn't really changing and dealing with my issues. So in 2018, I got a new therapist. I did it the proper way. I vetted and I interviewed therapists, and I figure out which therapist was the best for me. Actually, the therapist that I picked came highly recommended from my mentor. So the minute I got new therapy, and I realized what the therapist that I had was the difference was between the old therapist and the new therapist. I had to face my issues every day. I had to wake up and call myself out, you know, literally wake up and address issues. How did I do yesterday with this? What am I going to do today with this? How am I going to address my attitude towards this worker, co-worker? Am I going to be negative? Like, there was a big difference with the new therapist, because with the new therapist, the homework she gave me is that I had to deal with me every single day. I had to call my own self out every day. I had to challenge myself. The rubber band theory, my therapist didn't come up with that. I came up with that because I wanted to change so bad, because I began to be exposed to positive people. And I remember admiring people who had positive energy, who was, everything that they spoke out of their mouth was positivity. And it reflected in everything in their life. And I remember admiring that. I remember thinking, man, I want to be like that. I want to be positive like that. I want to walk into a room and people can feel my positive energy. So on the way from work, I stopped at the dollar store and I bought rubber bands. And I was like, you know what? Every single time I have a negative thought or I say something negative, I'm going to put a rubber band on my arm. Guys, the first day I had rubber bands from here all the way here. It was really bad. But when I visually saw it, it hits different. It completely hits different when you actually see the results of your toxic behavior. So, and what made it worse were people were asking, why do you have all these rubber bands on your arm? As you guys know, vulnerability is a very sensitive thing. You can't just walk around and sharing everything with everyone about what you're doing. I knew better at that time in the therapy that I was getting that I couldn't just tell everyone, oh, I have rubber bands on my arm because I'm negative and I wanted to see how many times I'm negative during a day. I only shared it with trusted people that I can actually trust my vulnerability to, what at the time was my best friend and another friend of mine. And I would literally take pictures for them to hold me accountable and send it to them. Like, look how many rubber bands that I have. So if I had a day where I had 4 rubber bands or 2 rubber bands or no rubber bands, I would send them pictures. I'm like, girl, I went a whole day and I didn't say one negative thing and I didn't have one negative thought. I would, I would send them pictures so they can hold me accountable with that. So that was the difference between my old therapist and my new therapist that I started getting, that I got in 2008, is that she pushed me to face myself every day, to face the issue every day. Every day I had to wake up and call, okay, how did I do yesterday with this? Okay, and then if I failed or I digress, I'm like, how am I going to address this today? And just as much as we address and acknowledge when we mess up, it's important that we applaud ourselves. So earlier I just said when I only had 1 rubber band, or I had no rubber band, or I had 3 rubber bands, I would celebrate myself and congratulate myself. I would share it with my friend, my best friend and another friend of mine, like, girl, I had no rubber bands today. So just as important, it's important that you wake up every day and you acknowledge, okay, how did I do today with lying? How did I do today with gossiping? How did I do today with being negative? How did I do today with my temperament? I mean, how was I today? You have to be aware of it. And like I said, you don't have to share what you're doing with everybody. You only share with people that you can trust, because trust me, baby, been there, done that. You can't share the things that you're working on yourself with just anyone. So celebrate yourself and have people celebrate with you. But you first want to celebrate yourself. You want other people celebrating you as an icing on the cake. You don't really need anyone to say good job, because you're going to say good job for yourself. Very, very important. Listen, let me tell you something. One of the things that I'm learning is that it took a while for me to get here, but I'm at a place where if you applaud me, thank you very much. And if you don't applaud me, because I'm going to applaud myself, okay? And the last thing is, it's completely impossible. After this, we're done. It's completely impossible to genuinely make an attempt to try to change your toxic behavior, and not at minimum see that your mindset has shifted, and at least a little tiny improvement in your behavior. I say it all the time. If all we needed was willpower, why would we need God? Willpower is great. Willpower will help you change, but we need God. And the reason why we need God is because sometimes we get real cocky and we think it's all us. And God has to do the things to humble us and let us know, no, boo-boo, you cannot do this without me. So yes, willpower is enough, but it's important that, we go to God and ask God for guidance and help, because we can't do it by ourselves. And the reason God doesn't want us to believe that we can do this all by ourselves, because our head's going to get big. We're going to think that this is all about us, that, we don't need nobody. We don't need the Holy Spirit. We don't need God. We can do this by ourselves. We can't do it by ourselves, because if we can do it by ourselves, why would we need God? Why would we need the Holy Spirit? Why would we need the Bible? Why would we need to pray? Why would we need to meditate? It's impossible. So the last thing is, it's impossible to make a genuine effort and not see that your mindset has shifted, or at least see a tiny bit of improvement in your behavior. So the point of this video is, you have to be conscious and aware, not obsessive compulsive about the things that you need to change, because sometimes being obsessive compulsive doesn't help you. It actually brings negativity. But to be consciously aware, I'm gossiping again. I just lied again. I'm being negative again. I'm having a temperament issue. I'm being violent again. Whatever that issue is for you, you have to be conscious when you're conscious. Because when I was intentional, I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to my negative thoughts. So I had a piece of paper by my desk. Every time I had a negative thought, even when I was on a phone call with somebody, I would literally jot down what I thought that was negative. If I said something negative, I would keep track of it. And I know it sounds legalistic and crazy, but guys, I had to change. Your girl was, ooh, your girl was negative. You hear me? Negative. Okay? And your girl had to change. So any measure possible that it took for me to change, I was going to change. I made a genuine effort and I saw genuine results. I made a genuine effort and my mindset changed. I made a genuine effort and I saw consistency, improvement, day after day, month after month, and year after year. And the person that y'all watching today, boo, is completely, none of y'all want to talk to me years ago. Y'all be like, no ma'am. So when you're consciously aware and you're intentional about the things that you need to change in your behavior and your toxic traits in your life, they will change. I promise you. Just be conscious and be intentional about the change and you will see results. Bye guys. Have a nice day.